Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Trash Talk. I'm here with a very, very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, I'm Dickers. I'm a streamer. I get wages to make edited VODs for me. So I guess I'm a YouTuber as well, but yeah.
Well, yeah, man. We'll diving straight into it. Straight off the bat, you're a pretty new content creator within the space, in terms of
Yeah.
like on this channel. How'd you get into it? Like, how did like the live streaming stuff start for you?
Well, initially it was kind of around kind of a PhD kind of program that I was in.
Mhm.
Had a bit of like organized like time off for that. I was gonna not do much else anyway, so yeah. Decided that I'd watched like streams for a while. Seemed like fun. To be fair, for a while, it it did seem frustrating. Obviously, you're watching somebody, you're hearing their take, and if you're actually
Yeah.
kind of like into the story or into whatever, it's really frustrating watching somebody that you like earnestly and vehemently disagree with,
Yeah.
and then listen to them talk about something for 2 hours. And yeah. So I guess it was, I figured I enjoyed it a lot and felt like I probably enjoyed, yeah, getting into the well, rolling around in the mud, I suppose. But yeah,
Well, no, definitely.
yeah,
I mean, I think that's the thing with lots of content creators or people that want to be a content creator is that that's how it starts. I mean, even now, I'll watch a video. I don't know. Let's take the ImAllexx stuff, right? That's my bread and butter. And I'll watch
yeah,
a content creator cover it, and they'll be covering the most recent thing. There was like a thing on Twitch where he had like a brick emoticon, on his Twitch
yeah,
chat, and he didn't recently add it. It was just really funny, really ironic that it was just still there.
yeah.
And I'm watching this girl say that, oh yeah, like he's trying to mock Alice, and like today, like it was the other day that they uploaded it. I mean, it's completely wrong. It's completely like incorrect. It's not the case whatsoever. As much as, and it's so frustrating, so frustrating. So I think that's like a feeling like basically any person that's ever uploaded a video or been really interested in the story can like relate to.
Yeah, I
Because
think I
it's
think
so
you replied to
frustrating.
my tweet talking about that because I was very very suspicious because Alex has been going on had been going on live streams and
Yeah,
referencing it, and he was fine with people talking about it. Wasn't censoring his chat much, but I thought it was it's a little bit far, isn't it, to have like a brick emoji? And why is it going through a
well,
PC window?
yeah,
Why isn't it supposed to be hitting a woman? That's what a brick's made for, no?
yeah.
So
Well, exactly.
yeah,
Well, like it is
I
a bit
think that's
strange and a bit
also
far
the really
fetched.
annoying thing. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Well, like it's a bit far fetched, right, to think that he would put that emoticon. I know he was like laughing at like the brick joke and like whatever, anxiously like talking about it, or whatever. But like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a next level from just sit there and like either hire someone or find that like online and then upload it to his Twitch. I feel like I don't think we should give him that much faith that he's that sadistic
Yeah.
that he would actively do that.
Well, that's the thing as well that I think I do really, really get frustrated with as well. When you see somebody who is ostensibly like they are on your side of stuff, they're saying things that you agree with, and their
Yeah,
overall position, you like 100%, yeah. But then they go too far with something, or they say something that can easily be like disproven, or it's a huge reach. It's like, yeah, I get what you're trying to do, but unfortunately, this person's going to look fucking great when they can like smack this down and say, look
yeah,
how
yeah.
unhinged people are. Especially when that was such a huge bit about Alex's like response document. You'll always see this. It either comes across as sympathy baiting, or it's a bit of their document where unfortunately you just have to like listen to it, or his video rather. You have to listen to it and go, he's right. Yeah, he's right there. Yeah, that's too far. Like you see that
Yep.
with Alex, you see that with Destiny, you see that with so many cases where they can
Uh,
point out that
yeah.
these narratives are swirling online. It's like, damn. Well, maybe all the criticism about them is is made up and
Well,
faking over the
yeah.
top.
Well, like when I covered the like emoticon and was speaking about it, like my whole point was that you give them something else to latch onto, you give them something else to like try and back up their own narrative by saying, well, if they're lying about this, what else are they lying about to like dragging it out to this extent? I mean, it's what iDubbbz tried to do with the dislike extension, but like failed horrifically because he didn't put the fucking analytic up on screen. Um,
Mm.
but you just give them something else to latch onto, a point to make, which you don't necessarily want to do, even if they are like the most heinous person that you know, and they deserve all the critique and all the shit that they get. Right? Realistically, with the emoticon, you could have just said that's quite ironic, isn't it? It would be funny that he didn't like remove that before streaming, and that would have been it. It would have been funny. It would have been great. Would have been a good point to use against him. That, you know, why hasn't he checked? That's really funny that he's gone and streamed without, like, you know, removing that, and that's really funny that he's found out on stream and then panicked.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. But people don't have that.
It is a tricky thing as well to try and like. It's probably like figuring out how to suss out thinking about how things are going to like play with the public, or thinking how things are going to play with, like, I guess, people watching the content. You've got, like, out of 100 things that you could use against somebody to, like, hammer home, this is why this person's, like, a bad guy. This is why I don't like this guy. This is why... Blah, blah, blah. Out of those, a lot of them are just going to be funny, and they might actually just be better used as, like, jokes to laugh at them. Don't try and hammer it home. It's not that deep, but yeah.
Well, yeah, well, by that point with Alex especially, it's like, well, what are you trying to prove? We all know he's, like, this disgusting piece of shit. It's better to just point and laugh at him. Like, there is nothing else you can really add to try and, like, expose him further. That doesn't make him a worse person. That just makes him look funny. It just makes him look fucking, like, ridiculous. But no, like, I 100% like, agree that it's like a frustrating thing when you're watching a content creator or just watching anybody, and you agree to the most part, but they just go too far, and you know, they get something wrong. It's so frustrating.
I think the Alex thing in particular kind of exemplifies a problem that I think a lot of people have when they try and, like, grasp with a story, but not really trying to think of. So, for example, like, ImAllexx. Where did his stuff come from? Why did he do what he did to Alice? Well, it seems like he's incredibly kind of, like, sensitive, incredibly neurotic. He freaks out, and he has, like, huge swings of anger. But is he the kind of person to sit and plot and try and do things that from afar would upset somebody, and, like, to mentally and emotionally, like, fuck with them? Well, no, not really. But I think people get wrapped up in their minds about, like, what an evil person does, what a bad person does. And it's just kind of like, I don't know, painting with way too broad a brush, and not really thinking through why people do the things that they do. Not everyone who does an evil thing is themselves evil, you know what I mean? But it's just it's just like a lazy thing to label someone with.
100%, and like, you know, when it comes down to this, it's just critical thinking. It's like, well, if we're looking at the situation at hand, just like taking the Alice stuff, in this case, maybe not his other situations, is there's no, like, behavior where he's been plotting stuff or he's been thinking about doing something and then he's done it. There's no proof of anything like that. This would be the first time. I mean, even that comment where he responded to, like, the brick phone comment that I put in chat, that was done in the moment. He did that in the moment. He had that reaction in the moment. It wasn't a moment that he plotted out, like, 2 days before that he was going to do that on that stream. A lot of the stuff that you critique him for, and that, 100% bad guy, but he's not like this evil mastermind stroking his, like, cats in the corner, like, plotting all these things out. It's just not happening.
And if anything, when he does plot something out, he does kind of prepare something or think it through. You know, it's the letter, it's the kind of, like, messages that he's sending to her, it's him bringing stuff up, it's his video. He's preparing things because it's going to make him look better in someone's eye. He's never going to prepare something that's going to make him look bad.
Make him look 10 times worse and give, like, commentary channels, like, a brand new video to talk about.
Exactly.
Well, like, with you getting into, like, streaming and stuff, how's that been, right? Because, like, I know I'm surrounded by people that do streams, like Ace and Spinling occasionally, and everything. How is streaming for you? Because I know I just don't think I'd be ever cut out for, like, you know, doing those long hours. Like, how is that?
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, I really enjoy it. I have got a little bit of... I didn't realize this, but I think people talk about me and mention how long my streams can be sometimes. Like, there have been times where I've streamed for, like, over 12 hours, like, into, like, 14 hours. In fact, there was one time I had a friend of mine, she called in. I was talking about a topic, and she called in. I was like, "Oh, hi, Aiko. You know, have you got any thoughts on this?" And she's like, "Yeah, not really. Are you okay? Like, is everything fine?" It's like, I'm still in the middle of a segment right now. I'm okay. So I don't mind the long hours too much, especially so long as I feel like I'm, like, interested in something. Like, maybe it's just kind of being early into stuff and feeling, like, motivated to talk about particular things. But yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy it a lot.
Well, like, how do you balance streaming and, like, your real life? Of course, I'm not asking anything personal, but, like, how is that a balance that you, like, come up with? Because I know I was talking to quite a few live streamers and stuff, and that's something that they've always said they struggle with, is the balancing, or, you know, because it takes so much time away, the one is lacking than the other. Like, how is that for you? Do you manage to balance everything all right, or is that, like, or has that been a struggle for you?
Well, it's definitely. I feel like I balance it relatively well. Although it's absolutely something that needs to be like considered, or you need to like think about it. Like people mocked us on for the social batteries take, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, there is a big kernel of truth in it. Like even after I'm off stream, people message me because it's like, oh, Dickers has finally got off live. Yeah, I'll message him. I was gonna message him earlier, but he was streaming.
Yeah.
I cannot be fucking bothered to reply. I can't
Oh
be
no,
fucking
no.
asked. I don't want to talk to anyone. And yeah, and I guess in terms of like IRL stuff, it's the same kind of thing. You spent 5 hours. Oh, sorry, you spent the last 5 days or however long, kind of spending, most of your day talking to other people to get documents together, working, then going live, and you're essentially like, talking to an audience for however long. I don't want to fucking see anybody. I just want to be on my own with my own thoughts. But it's just trying to be, I guess, a little bit kind of mindful that, although I might want to take a break, I guess it's normal stuff that anyone would have. It's probably, I'm going to enjoy it when I'm out, even if I don't want to like enjoy the planning or whatever. The biggest thing for me is I've never really been like a good texter, a good replier. And so I have had to think about like when I'm replying to people, because before stream I feel like all I want to do is get my docket ready. Then I'm streaming. I don't want to text people during that. And then after stream I want to get off and go to bed. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I guess I don't know if I feel like I handle it very well, to be honest, but I definitely think about it.
Well, like I think especially with like a niche like commentary, right? Because you're always doing stuff, always talking to different people. I mean, interviewing people, talking to people, covering topics. It's so time consuming, right? So you do forget to do a lot of things, and the balancing is really hard. I mean, even for me, I've got loads of projects, loads of different channels and stuff. And I think I balance it fairly well, but I think that's just because I've been doing it for so long now. But my social battery is fucked, or like you brought up, replying to people. After I've made videos or whatever, I'm just completely zoned out. I just completely forget to respond to people, don't respond to people, think that I've responded to people, and then like I haven't. I mean, I was looking at my messages earlier. Gamma wanted me to like message Cameron to message you or something, and I just completely blanked it. I just completely forgot. Like it just didn't don't do it. I was just like, yeah, go on, I'll do it. I just nothing. Just completely forgot, and I only realized when I messaged you after I'd forgotten for an hour that we were doing an episode.
No, it's fine. I got in contact with him in the end anyway.
Yeah,
Thank you for that though, right? Fucking
social
hell.
battery
I
just
was
completely
so trying
gone,
to
bro.
get in contact with that guy for like a day. I had to
Well,
get
like,
banned from his Discord and make a tweet about it for him to finally message me.
well, yeah, well, like, see, I would have 100% messaged him because he's been in my DMs non-stop since before his video dropped. Because he reached out to me and was like, hey, could you give me some advice on this iDubbbz video? It's like, can you see the pacing? Like, I'm a viewer of your podcast. I listened to it in the seminars and stuff. Like, would you be down to just help? I was like, whatever, I'll take a look at the video. Oh, this is pretty good. Right, I gave him a bit of advice. Messaging me on Discord, like, yeah, so by the way, if you've seen my name, it's because I used to work with Yondery Dev. But don't worry, I left when he was a pedo. I was like, oh, okay, okay. I appreciate that. So then, like, when everything came out, I just responded to him, was like, you haven't been transparent, and just non-stop he's been in my DM since that, like going, have you seen my response? What do you think? I'm sorry. I feel like I fucked you over. I feel like I've lied to you. I feel really bad for you and Nick and all these other people I've reached out to.
No,
and, like,
he does not. He doesn't
supported.
feel
I was
bad
like,
for anyone, man.
It just does
he
not
feels
come
bad
off
that he's
as
lost these
truthful.
connections that he's just got.
Exactly. It very much screams that he's not only like really worried about people covering him, but it comes off as this like weird obsessiveness that he's lost something that he's just got. It doesn't come off as natural or actually like he gives a shit. It comes off very robotic, and the guy's just a weirdo,
that's been
man.
basically my entire coverage of him.
Yeah.
Well, initially it was like kind of reacting to the allegations that, because I'd never heard about the guy before, and to be honest, I wasn't super interested in the iDubbbz content cop that he made.
No.
I did watch it offline, kind of skim through it. I wasn't like particularly like wowed or anything. It was like a well-made video, pretty good. But it didn't interest me. But yeah, when the allegations dropped, or when they were resurfaced, I kind of reacted to that initially. But then everything that I've said since that initial reaction has been, this guy's a huge liar. This guy lies. He's super manipulative, out and out. It's just everything. He doesn't just tell lies. He strings together entire worlds of lies.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like, oh, yeah, I've cleaned my room. when you haven't actually cleaned your room. It's like, yeah, well, I cleaned my room because earlier, like, I went to the shop and then I saw like a dustpan and brush, and that reminded me, of course, I needed to clean my room. And then I was cleaning my room, and like the Hoover broke halfway through, so then I had to repair the Hoover. It's an entire world of just just paper thin lies.
It's a story of lies to try and back up the other lie that he's told, to back up another lie he's told. And you can see straight through it. And I do think it's just hilarious that it's happened so quickly after he's dropped this content cop, right? He's got this like ego so quickly because it's done so well, right? And then everything's falling apart. And you can just see him
he could have survived the allegations, 100%.
Yeah.
He could have survived the allegations if he was just like open, honest with them, didn't try to do this skeeving behavior. Because if there's one thing that, in my opinion, commentary hates more than anything else, it's somebody who lies, somebody who tries to use them to, like, you know, shift the public narrative. It's just, it fucks up stories. And it feels personally manipulative. Like someone's trying to take you for a fool. Yeah, hate it.
Because I mean, when all of this dropped, of course I had like a few like messages here and there, and it was like, "Do you want to call?" Like before the allegations, I was like, you know, I'm not really interested. I mean, I hardly call with people I actually like, let alone random people that message me. You know, I don't want to do that, right? And then you know the allegations dropped. I messaged him like saying, you know, I don't think you were very transparent here. And it was like, you know, what, do you want to hop in a call? Do you want to do this? It's like, not really. I don't want to do anything like with you behind the scenes or personally. That's just like bizarre. And you fall into that trap as well immediately. Like he was like, oh yeah, I'll go over your like if you want, I can go over my response with you before it drops. Like fuck that, no. If I have an interest afterwards, I will reach out to you and message you. I'm not going to hop in a call with you before your responses drop to try and like then like give like a sign of approval for you then to drop it and then like for it to like, you know, come back at me later. That's just so stupid.
Exactly.
Like,
because as soon as you go over and review it, you either have to litigate with him in that moment, say, I don't think you address this, I don't think you address that. And essentially at that point, you're workshopping it. And he gets to say, well, Samuel said that it was fat.
Exactly.
Know? Samuel said this was a great response.
Yeah, and it's awful. It's so bad. And like, I think the only thing I can compare it to is Parlo with his pyrocynical document. Is he showed it to me like in a call, and I was just like, well, look, I'm not gonna like whatever. I mean, you can feel free to send it to me, but you know, I'm not gonna like. I want to go through it myself. I'm not gonna like, you know, sit in this call with you for however long. You can talk about it if you want and go through it, but I'm not gonna give you my opinions. I will go through it on my own thing, and then if I have any worries about myself and I'm going through it, then I'll reach out to you for like, you know, a question or whatever. Because you just get trapped in there, and then they can use it against you. It's so easy to fall into that trap. It's so much better to, you know, if you want to send that document to me, fair enough, I will go through it in my own time, and then, you know, if I've got any questions about it, I will message you on my own terms, not you know, something that you can use against me or like another content creator.
Because there's a thin line here, right? Because everybody in this space, I feel like, has reached out to another creator.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Either someone they're closely associated with, or maybe even like tangentially associated with, to be like, can you give me an optics check here? Can you give me some thoughts about this? I know you know a lot about this. I know you know a lot about that. But it's always with this kind of thing of like, you don't have to. Just want to have like a chit chat. Just want to, what are your ideas on this? What are your thoughts on this? But as soon as it starts to feel like, you're trying to kind of rope me into this, this feels very, very weird. It's a really thin line. It's a really thin line.
Well, like, you know, I've done it myself where I've reached out to people and like asked for advice. I mean, I got the opportunity a few months ago to have a conversation with Lionmaker. And that wasn't something that, you know, I really felt comfortable doing. I didn't really see the point in it at the end of the day. So I reached out to like Nick and asked him for like, you know, just for a bit of advice. That kind of cleared up my perspective and like kind of like solidified what I thought. And, you know, then I made like a decision. But it wasn't anything like, you know, he didn't have to check anything out, whatever. It was just like, you know, what would you do if you were like in this position? You know, like, you know, any advice? And look, every content creator, especially within commentary, does that because it's a good thing to do, right? Especially like, you know, from bigger content creators, even like content creators that are smaller but know what they're talking about. It's a great thing to do. But as soon as it like, you know, starts getting into that thing of like, you know, hop in this call with me, like, you know, oh, look at my response, look at this. You know, you just never want to go there. You never want to take that step too far. And I mean, that's something I 100% realized, like, you know, during the ImAllexx stuff, about like going too far and like making sure that you don't like take that extra step. And I mean, I guess even with being a live streamer, like, I guess it's even more difficult for you because, you know, a bit of that is talking to these individuals, talking to these people, you know. So I guess it is harder as well to try and stop yourself from falling into that.
Oh, you mean in terms of like going too far with a certain story or a
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
allegation? Yeah. Thankfully, I feel like there is a little bit of grace given
Mhm.
to people who kind of, are on live streams. If there's a clip that goes around, you can maybe say, well, that was a joke. If you look at the wider coverage, da da da
Yeah.
da da da, then you can supply another clip. But there definitely is still like a risk. It's difficult because you do have to be mindful in the moment, and does it feel stressful? I don't know. It's just an extra thing you've got to be aware of. Another plate to spin, I guess, while you're doing it. That okay, if you want to make a joke, that's fine. Just give like a brief disavow afterwards.
Yeah, yeah.
Or just make sure that stuff's reflected. Because the weirdly, not only do you have to worry about clips, you can give a disclaimer at the start of a segment. But obviously, with live streams, it's very, very rare for people to sit there and watch the entire live stream
Well,
that
yeah.
you do, or even to watch an entire segment that you do. And so it feels repetitive. Obviously, it feels unnecessary, but reiterating some kind of disclaimer, I don't think this, I think this is too far, I think this, blah, blah,
Exactly.
blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. Given that again and again, it feels like ridiculous. But especially if you want to give good coverage and not put your foot in your mouth and not give people the wrong idea, it's kind of necessary. Yeah. Annoying though.
Well, yeah, like it's to a certain extent, it's about being like just cautious, right? Sometimes it feels like you can be overcautious as a creator, but I don't think that's necessarily like a bad thing, right? I think in certain cases, especially when covering infighting and stuff within commentary, I think it's always better to be overcautious than undercautious because I think that can easily bite you in the ass. If you fuck up or you
Yeah.
put like your foot in your mouth, like there's lots of stuff that can go wrong there. We're being overcautious, right? Might cut content a little bit, right? But like, I'd much rather want to cut a bit of my content than just fuck like a situation up or fuck my coverage.
Yeah.
So 100% with that. And like, because of course, like on live streams, you will cover so many topics, right? You will easily get through 2, 3, 4 topics depending on the live stream, depending on the day, the week, how many stuff's going on. Well, like,
Yeah.
and just because of how long you've been going for now, what's been your favorite topic to cover?
Ooh, favorite topic to cover. Ooh, man. Let me. I might have to. The ImAllexx stuff
Yeah.
took like. I think all in all, with the amount of stream content, I think it managed to get cut down into like 24 hours. So it's like three videos, 8 hours each.
Yeah.
That was pretty good, and that was enjoyable. I had help doing that. Help with people kind of like reading through the DMs and kind of feeling like you're unpicking something and seeing like a wider picture. That was fun, but that was extremely time consuming. The
Oh yeah.
Destiny stuff has been super fun. Really enjoyable to look through. Kind of for the same reason. To really get like a good grasp, especially when there's arguments about implied consent, there's arguments like flying both ways. You've got to kind of look at the entire context of the leaks. That's really, really fun to feel like you kind of almost in your mind, you're kind of spreading all these kind of documents or screenshots across your desk or whatever, and trying to like piece them together, trying to interpret things, trying to like piece bits together. That's super, super fun. Yeah. So I guess that. Weirdly, the Wendigoon video about that he made about
Yeah.
Bible history, that was really, really fun for me. But I feel like that was more fun for me to just talk about like I guess interesting bits of history than anything drama related. But yeah.
Well, like, topics like that are sometimes great, right? The topics that don't have stakes are sometimes like the best stuff to go over, right? I know on like my channel,
Yes.
like where I cover like all the like drama and stuff, slot mule. I love a good topic where there's just no stakes. Like I covered recently, what was it? Tommy in an AI book or whatever he did, where there's like clear AI on it. No stakes whatsoever. I can just shit all over him, and it's a good time. Like no stakes whatsoever. Like those dramas are great. Because
Yeah.
realistically, right? Like it's not hard to like give a good take. You can have some fun with it. It's your opinion at the end of the day. Open to other people's opinions. But it's just a situation where realistically, even if let's say you had like a take people didn't agree with, well, it's a low stakes thing. It's like it's literally nothing. It's just an open conversation, and those topics are always the most fun to talk about.
There is something about having like a rewarding topic that you talk about. You feel like you go into something. There is a certain amount of stakes there, but you feel like you navigate it well. Like I had a couple of months ago, or no, probably a month ago, really. I don't know if you caught wind of this. There was a video that came out about the the girl who was used in the honeypotting to catch EDP by Gideon.
Yeah.
Because you remember there was a second sting that Gideon tried to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, she came out, had a little bit of help, tried to release a video, tried to release a document to kind of go through and share her side of things. Because apparently, Gideon and, some people that he kind of worked with behind the scenes were trying to slander her and say that she'd been the one to ruin the police investigation, blah, 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 blah. I think there was a really, really kind of troubling implication that you're using a real minor as, like, a decoy. Well, it's not even a decoy. It's just there's real honey in the pot, I guess, if you want to honeypot somebody. And then having, what felt like an entire, like, operation centered around prompting this minor to, like, send more messages, prompting this minor to act a certain way. But the problem was, the person who was running around and doing kind of defense for her video was, I don't know if you've heard of a video creator called Verdius.
No, I'm not.
He was involved a little bit with the Prism stuff. He and Prism worked together. Yeah. So I mean, this guy got a relatively bit of good kind of big attention back in the day around the Mr. Beast stuff. I think his name even got mentioned in a Rolling Stones article. But so yeah, he's got like a little bit of kind of reputation. He's got a little bit of, I guess, clout or whatever. Anyway, between things that she said and then things that he said, I managed to piece together that he wasn't just a disinterested party who was mutual friends, as he tried to present himself initially. He was actually dating her. He was her boyfriend. Yeah. So I believe she is still 17. I think he misspoke or mistyped at some point, and then she was 16, so there was confusion over her age. Initially, he presented himself as 19 or 20, but then he admitted to lying about his age to make himself sound older, but that was only after it found out that they were dating. And oh man, so that got a little bit weird. Yeah. But yeah. So kind of unraveling that and kind of getting to the getting to the bottom of that while having him on live stream saying, "Be honest with me, you're dating this girl, aren't you?" He's like, "Well, no, but if I was, you understand, I wouldn't say publicly." So that's an odd thing to say if you're not dating somebody.
Yeah. Well, like,
so I felt
situations like that.
Good about that. But that was relatively. But yeah, I was really worried though when that happened because I didn't know if this was going to be like the very start or the very kernel of like a huge thing. Obviously, it's a huge allegation from the girl who was used to honeypot, EDP by Gideon. Yeah. Which was a huge drama in and of itself. Is this going to like spin off as a retrospective drama? I was really, really worried about fucking that up, about either going too gung ho against this document and then being completely kind of fucked on the back end, or yeah. So I was concerned about that, but I feel like I did it pretty well.
Definitely, and those come out of nowhere, right? Those type of situations. Because like you have no idea that like a situation you like are covering, like, especially when it's like a smaller one, could possibly become like such a big one, right? And like I had that last year with again. I hate to bring it up, but it's just because it is like so linked to a lot of like the things that we're going to be talking about. Is like the ImAllexx stuff, right? I was sitting in a call with like Ace and like Spinling and a few other people, and I was just on TikTok scrolling, and like on TikTok you get like an auto-suggested like a search thing that people have been searching. It was ImAllexx allegations, and I clicked on it and I found Alice's TikTok, and it just went from there. I had no idea what I was scrolling upon. I made one tweet, I made a video just going over it and saying, look, don't jump to conclusions or whatever, and then messaged iDubbbz, messaged Alice, and then it just happened.
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive because whenever I check those like hashtags, I get nothing. They've bought like a Gucci bag that might be fake.
Yeah,
I never find anything.
Like I had no idea that like
though.
I was gonna stumble across like a big situation, like, and even when I did stumble upon it and like make my tweet and make my video, I didn't think it would be like a big situation. I thought, the most this would do would cover like make the rounds within commentary because it's ImAllexx and he's hated. But like I didn't expect like a response from iDubbbz. Didn't respect a response from Alice when I reached out to them, and I certainly didn't expect the situation to like become what it is. And things just kind of happen. And you've got to like think about it in the moment. Make sure you're not fucking anything up. And I think it is inevitable that, of course, you are probably going to make a mistake or two. I mean, 100%. Like, I hold my hands up that I definitely made a mistake or two during that like situation. But overall, I think it came out for the best. With everything that was going on there, and especially that's heightened on live streams, right? Is you are going off the bat, right? You are in the moment doing all that stuff, right? In front of a live audience, you have no idea how that's going to go, if that could backfire, if what you're saying's like, not necessarily correct or anything, but like could affect the situation or what's going at hand if you're going too harsh. That's like a lot of pressure.
I feel like I've had dreams where I've been watching like a stream clip of myself, and it's on like Reddit or Twitter or whatever, where I'm going really, really confidently, making a certain point, like, this guy's totally fucking innocent. These allegations are complete bullshit.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to like a police report, and he's actually been convicted.
Yeah, that's why you're
like,
so careful.
That's the stuff of fucking nightmares, dude.
Yeah, that's always my fear when covering a situation and topic. That's why, like, I always like, especially when I'm covering stuff on like my channels and stuff, I always try and be like not as open as possible, but like, of course, critiquing, like giving the positives or whatever, but trying to be open at the end, right? Leave it open ended. So I'm not like giving like a definitive statement here, like this person is guilty or this person is innocent. Because like it's always a thing that, God, like if that, let's say that completely turned out to be the opposite, my God, bro, that clip's going everywhere, you're fucked. Like, and I think it's easier to control when you're like sitting there making like a video. But of course on a live stream, you just get carried away really easily. You can just say the wrong word, mess up a little bit. It's so easy.
The difficult thing as well is that, unironically, caveating and saying, well, this might be bad, this kind of like increases the probability that something awful has happened, but who knows, maybe not. It's less compelling content. It's more responsible, obviously.
Yeah.
But obviously, like as content creators, you want to make something that people want to listen to, something that people want to watch. And so, kind of trying to be responsible and also trying to go, trying to make good content. It's really, really hard to balance sometimes.
Well, yeah, like especially on live, because like again, in a video when you're covering a topic, like all you need is for those people to click on that video, get the information, enjoy your video, and comment down below. It's not more so like trying to keep their attention, or like with a live stream, I feel like that's a big focus, right? It's trying to keep them on that live. With a video, you want them to, of course, keep watching, but you don't need to give like a I feel like you can be more like more to yourself. In terms of like your opinion, your thoughts and stuff, you make jokes and stuff. You can kind of replace that type of stuff that you would do on a live stream. In a video,
control the pace as well.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, on a live stream, I think there's just a lot more of that that you've got to try and think about, trying to keep those viewers, trying to keep them there. That's why I think I'd be like, when it comes to that, like I think I can talk. I've got like the personality for live stream, but I think I'd be boring in that aspect because I think I'd just be too like conserved in that response. And in that element, I just think that I just wouldn't, dive like head first into that. Like I think I'm better when I go on a live stream when someone else is streaming and I give it a thought or a view or a joke or whatever. Because there isn't as much blowback on like me, for example. Like I will hop on an A stream, I'll say the most ludicrous things and I'll just leave. It's over, it's done. I go on for like 10 minutes, shit talk some random art commentary person.
And it's kind of I've noticed that myself. Even though like I do live streams, when I hop on somebody else's live stream, I feel like I don't know, I feel like I'm funnier, I feel like I'm, able to make jokes that I wouldn't otherwise. Obviously there's somebody else in the call with you, and so you've got a natural kind of like bounce back socially, rather than just like speaking at your computer screen with a mic, and then you see the chat react like three seconds later. But you can also kind of like take the pressures off you. And so you can, sit back, maybe think, and it's a little bit more natural than like doing a stream. But yeah, I 100% agree.
Like yeah, it feels like great. Like I will be happily going on like an A stream for like an hour or so, saying like the most horrific stuff that never I would never say in videos, right? You would never catch me dead saying half the stuff I say on like a stream like that in videos or on somebody else's live stream. But it just feels so open and so free.
Mm.
But like
You've seen
I
that come back
100%
to bite
admire
people
them.
though,
Oh
especially
yeah,
recently with
100%.
the
Yeah,
Muzahar stuff. The tone that he
yeah.
took in his prepared content when he was talking about the ImAllexx situation, and then the tone that he took when he was in calls with Diorio and the rest. I mean, there's a very, very clear difference between them. And I guess the question
Yeah.
is, does he actually care about these allegations? Or does he think that it's really, really funny to joke about, Spencer
Well, yeah.
having to
Well,
like hide in Cameron Gerard Davis's
yeah.
house like a fucking like Anne Frank,
And that's why you've got to be consistent with like at the end of the day, I think this, but like if I go on someone else's stream, I'm gonna like hammer it up to like 20 or whatever 90,
Mm.
and I'm gonna make these jokes, but I would still like happily make these jokes anywhere else. I'm just gonna be like a lot less maybe energetic with the jokes or to the extent that I'm saying them. And
Yeah.
I think when it got like, I mean, at least with me, when I'm going on like an A stream, because it's art commentary, that is not my niche. That is not something I cover. I realistically, within reason, like of course, like there are going to be situations that are like horrific, but I don't really care. Right? They're not. That's not my topic. Not my niches. Not something I would
Mm.
usually cover. So I will happily go on there and like drum it up, make jokes or whatever. Of course, keep like my morals in check and everything.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, it's like I'm not ever going to cover this. Isn't a community that I'm interested in.
Mm.
So I feel like way more free with that. But yeah, I think you've just got to be careful, right? You've just got to be consistent. In that, yeah, 100% make like as many jokes as you want and be as free. But then you've just got to keep like consistency in your thoughts and your views and your morals when it comes to a story and a situation.
Yeah, I agree. And at
Which
the end of
like,
the day, I think you
uh,
can think about it as much as
mhm.
you want, and you can try and mitigate it and try and like, be mindful about what you're saying. But ultimately, it kind of comes down to like, I guess the charity of the audience, right? I feel like I could probably somebody could put together like a compilation of like 15 minutes about all the jokes that I'd make on a particular
Yeah,
topic, and then say, well, I thought you said that this could be potentially like serious. What? You're making all these jokes, kind of, yucking it up with your chat and pointing and laughing. It's like, yeah, but like that's over a very long live stream. Like, yeah, sometimes I make jokes, and sometimes, like, but please believe me, I do actually think that ultimately it's going to come down to people being like reasonable, giving you the benefit of the doubt, maybe having a little bit of understanding that yeah, you are going to
yeah,
crack a few jokes over a live stream. And I think that's honestly, it's sometimes it's a little bit. Is it scary? I don't know. It's kind of it's almost troubling to think that a
yeah.
huge controversy could be brewing if not for people being like, yeah, nah, it's a live stream, probably making jokes, probably whatever.
Well, yeah,
you
like
know.
it's always the thought of like at the back of your head, and like when it comes to making jokes and stuff, I think it's just right place, right time, right? And you've got to make sure that if you're watching like a really important, serious bit of the video, right? They've just told their horrific story, and then you just come up with a joke. I mean, of course, I think like everyone in commentary, has gone over the top with jokes and stuff. I mean, I've done it myself in certain situations where I've
Mm.
100% gone too far. But I think it's just about timing, about etiquette, the things you're saying in the jokes, how you deal with those jokes, and then I guess as well it's just the standard that you hold others that do the same thing. If you're there
Yes.
sitting there like pointing and laughing, right? Like I've made so many brick jokes, right? I'm not going to then say, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't make a joke like that towards that situation. Like, it could be like about a TV monitor with another situation, right? Someone's threatened to like
Yeah.
bash their like partner's head in with a TV monitor. I'm not going to sit there and then call out a person that's made a joke about that. That'd be like stupid. It's just all about consistency. And I guess like in that live stream environment, I think it's such an easy way to get wrapped in it all, right? I
I
feel
think
like
it is. It's genuinely difficult as well because I don't know if you really get this to the same extent in any other kind of medium where you're streaming, you're talking off the cuff, and you might hold somebody to like a certain standard that you wouldn't hold yourself to, right? Somebody
yeah,
that you don't like, somebody you think's a liar, somebody who you think is like super malicious. They say something, it seems mocking, it seems nasty, and then you criticize them for it. And there's probably like 3 hours worth of worth of
yeah,
footage of you making the exact same joke. It's like, oh, so are you like completely like an unprincipled fucking like retard? It's like, well, that was a bad take.
yeah.
But trying to be mindful of that in the moment as you're critiquing somebody, it's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah.
100%. Because like you get caught up in the moment, like plain and simply, right? Especially like when you're
Mm.
watching like a big video or going over a big document or a big situation, you kind of get caught up in it. And you just don't get that with like a pre-recorded video. Because like even to a certain extent, if you don't script your content, you've got like bullet points. You know what you're gonna say. You know your points. You've already thought them out. You've already seen that piece of content before, and you're just writing down your thoughts, bullet pointing them, whatever you want to do. You really don't
Yeah.
get that. Like, I think it's a lot harder to fuck up in like that type of medium, that type of content, than it is on live stream. It's so easy to go like too far, get caught up in the moment, say the wrong thing, have a bad point. Well, like I think realistically, if you're responsible and like reasonable, when it comes down to like a pre-recorded video, even if it isn't fully scripted, you know what you're gonna say, you know the points you're gonna make. To a certain extent, you can try and avoid that. Where live streaming,
I do feel kind
anything
of
can
bad
happen.
for video creators though, because streamers do, like I say, get a certain level of charitability. People are like, yeah, fair enough. Maybe it's a live stream. Da, da, da. You just kind of you don't really get that same kind of charity with when you're making prepared content because there's not
Yeah,
that in the moment kind of understanding.
yeah,
It can be like, oh, okay, well, it's not in the moment. Is this guy just retarded or is this guy just malicious? But realistically, people can make mistakes quite easily. But yeah, I feel like video essayists, ooh, I don't
oh
feel like
yeah.
I don't feel like people give them enough credit sometimes for
I,
the kind of stick that they can get into.
I could not do that type of content. I mean, those documentary videos and like the SS and all of that stuff. I mean, I tried my hand at it. Wasn't for me. Do not like that content. I much prefer to, sit there, go over a topic, chat a bit of shit, have a joke, have a laugh, post a video about
Mm,
it, and do the same as maybe like a video I would make about it, like in that essay form. But there's just so much pressure as well because you're talking about a whole story, right? You've got to get like within reason. Most things, right? Like, look, if you get the guy's like favorite color wrong, who's gonna give a fuck, right? But like, if you're getting like a
yeah.
big part of that story wrong or like a detail wrong, like even like if it is like inconsequential to that like specific bit, that's a lot of pushback on you. Well, like I feel like even in live streams and topic commentary content and all that like type of content, you just don't have that because you're going over that specific section of that piece of like story in that moment. You're going off of what's been told in that moment, what you've seen, the clips you've got, the evidence you've got, what's been said. Where in that essay content, you're condensing this whole story into one, and it only takes one bit of that story to, like for you to fuck up, for the rest of the video to be absolutely shut on. And you really don't get
The
that
problem
charitability.
is I think the most important thing that you can probably have going over a lot of this stuff is sorting between critiques that are made of you that disagree with your reasoning and disagree with your kind of like like kind of your ethics or
Yeah,
kind of fluffy takes that maybe it's debatable, and then where you are just like clear in the wrong. This isn't like a quibble. This isn't like an argument. This is like a correction that you're receiving, and
yeah,
being able to like recognize that and yeah, and just being able to like admit when you're wrong. It's not
exactly.
natural. I don't think anyone likes to admit, oh yeah, I was totally fucking wrong there. Don't know what I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
thinking, but it was very retarded thoughts.
Well, look, and I think that's where a lot of content creators, especially within commentary, go wrong. Is they just can't. They can't own up, and it's all about how you respond, right? Because it's human nature to make like a like do something wrong, right? Make a mistake. That's completely normal. But it's about how you respond
Yeah.
to that, how you deal with that. A lot of people will overcompensate, right? Just apologize everywhere and own up everywhere, which is not what you want to do. Realistically, you want to make a response, maybe once, right? Maybe twice, depending on the social media. Like, put the same response on Twitter and like maybe a community tab, whatever you want to do. But then some people don't respond at all, or they respond in the wrong way, and that's even worse than their initial like mistake. Because the best thing you can do, if you made a mistake, is go, yeah, I fucked up. Like I'll own that. Wasn't my proudest moment, and then you kind of move on. There's no point in dragging it, and at
Yeah.
the same time, there's no point that going against it to a certain extent, unless you genuinely feel like you haven't done anything wrong, and you feel like some people are taking it too far.
I
And
think the
again, that's just
worst
about
thing
how you
that
show
people
that.
get though sometimes is they'll have something they got totally like factually incorrect, and then they'll try and like change their they'll seemingly try and change their argument, but still be like the same kind of position, at least directionally, and then try and re-argue it, and you just invite 10 times more criticism because you've already
Yeah,
admitted, oh yeah, I was totally fucking wrong on this topic, but I'm going to talk about it anyway again. Blah 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 blah. You invite that kind of skepticism. I feel like if you've got like an issue totally wrong, going for a second bite of the apple is like, it's the worst thing you can do. You should probably just bow out the topic.
Well, yeah, I mean, like a good situation that reminds me of that was from towards the beginning of the year with the Nikkei 30 stuff. I mean, it's not exactly the most high, but so many topic commentators jumped in, said that like Nikkei 30 was a scammer. They got called out
Yeah.
for it, like on a mass basis, and then they just pretended like they didn't do it. Like, kind of just went down like a slightly different avenue, still saying that this guy's bad, but he's not a scammer. And it just makes them look even worse. It makes them look like they've got no integrity, that they don't really care. And
Hmm.
it fucks up all the other people that do similar content. Like, it's just and that's why a lot of those people get absolutely shut on, because they've got no integrity. They don't just own up to their mistakes. There's always got to be a different way around it for them. Which
But
is
yeah,
why,
I used to
that
watch
slop
topic
thing.
commentary before, but I think
Yeah,
that I don't know if it's a recent like turn, or maybe I've just like got older and developed. I guess got gold, maybe got a bit smarter. I feel like there are so many topic commentary channels that I genuinely don't think they actually really care about what
yeah,
they talk about. They only care about the performance and maybe a little bit of moral grandstanding here and there to pepper in, and then jokes,
yeah.
and then kind of sensationalistic stuff. But do they actually care about what they're talking about? I don't know. And I feel like a lot of these people are very, very concerned about numbers over anything
Yeah,
else. It
and about
it's
the
just
information they
it is
include,
genuinely
factual.
insane. It's genuinely insane to me how popular and how successful you can get as somebody who does like a daily topic commentary channel. You can be totally wrong. You can be embarrassingly wrong. But people don't really care. They're just there to kind of hear you tell the story. And so long as you post daily, uh, and
Well, yeah,
people generally kind of like your takes.
and I mean, there are so
It's
many
yeah.
people that get things wrong as well. Like the amount of like information and stuff they get it wrong. And I mean, that's why I started like the Slop Meal channel, right? I had the name Slop in there because there was such this like negative perception around like the daily commentary stuff. Is it, or like not daily commentary, but the topic commentary stuff just at hand. Is that you can't get information right. This is just like shit and stuff. Where like it's just these content creators that have like blown up from it, got things wrong. Their videos are arse. They don't have no integrity. They only care about the viewership. And of course, you're going to get topics where, like, realistically, do I really want to cover this? No, but I'm going to cover it anyway. But then it's about if you get the
Yeah.
information right. That's the most important bit. And that's why I started that channel Slot Meal. Is because I just thought it was such a negative like term around topic commentary. When I think realistically, I think it's pretty easy to like make a video where even if it is daily or topic commentary, like quote unquote slop. I think everything's slop
Mm.
now, but like it's so easy to get the information right. And do that, but like people, like, I'm not gonna like name loads of people. Maybe like a Cheeto and all these other people. They just don't give a shit. They don't give a fuck. Like they simply do not care. They get things wrong. And that's why they're not in the conversation. That's why that you don't see them like being brought into like big dramas or big situations, or them trying to tackle that on Twitter, or get involved in like the mix of stuff. I mean, when have you last seen like a topic commentator like that has actually got involved like properly in like a situation? You just don't see it because they don't care.
No. Unless it's like a personal grievance they have, and it's
Exactly.
between different creators. Yeah, they don't really get involved or try and like dig especially deeper.
Yeah,
The ones that do, I give them like loads of credit.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, speaking about a Cheeto, have you seen that he's recently tried to take a little dive into politics? He had Nux
Why?
Taco on.
Why?
Well, he says exactly why in the start of the call with Nux Taco. He comments on how his videos about Hassan have been popping off recently, getting huge amounts of views. And he basically, I'm paraphrasing, but in as many words says, can you kind of walk me through the Israel-Palestine stuff? Because I really
my
want to
God.
learn how to criticize Assad as well.
It's awful. It's like,
Yeah.
why? It's like I've been making loads of videos on like the iDubbbz, H3 and Hassan stuff, but I always preface in the videos, I'm not going to pretend to know that I know a lot about like the conflict, right? Like I'm clued in to a certain extent, but I'm not clued into enough to critique it to that extent. And I always make it apparent, look, this is not something that I feel comfortable going after or critiquing, right? If there's an obvious point, I will go after it and call him out. But that's just not my forte. That's not something I'm particularly interested in. I'm way more interested in the fuck ups, the lies, the other manipulation at hand, or like the actual drama stuff going on. I think
Yeah.
it's so scummy to kind of just like put views first. If you know you can't cover something, or you're just not interested in it, or you have no idea what it's about, don't fucking cover it. It's such
The
an
problem
easy,
is as well
simple
is that
thing
a Cheeto's incredibly sensitive to criticism and to backlash. He really seemingly doesn't like it. Like I think Aiden has spoken about him on a few live streams. and he described it as him brigading him or raiding him.
Yeah.
He didn't direct his chat to do anything. He's just watching him, like live. But he's describing that as like the most malicious way possible. Clearly, because it severely affects him. But ultimately, why would you want to get into politics content if you're so sensitive? I gave a comment that was totally correct, but people misunderstood what I was saying, misunderstood kind of the definitions that I was using. I was correct, and there was an understanding afterwards. Okay, I didn't get that's what you were saying, but there was a little while when I was getting criticised for a political take I'd got because it's an extremely contentious issue, and people are going to have already an opinion on it, and they're going to have a broad diversity of opinions. So weighing into that realm at all is inviting criticism, is inviting a fight. The politics sphere, that's why it's so intertwined, in my opinion, with the drama sphere. Because there is so much drama there, because it's so heated, and people are constantly going each other's throats. As somebody who's sensitive and can't really kind of deal with the heat, I've got no idea why would you want to start weighing in there.
And he can hardly cover a JoJo Siwa topic, let alone a political. How the fuck's he gonna do that? It's exactly why I will never get involved in the politics. I just don't like it, and I know that. Regardless of how many views I could possibly get from it, that just does not interest me, and I won't sell out my integrity to go over and do politics or get involved in that scene because it just doesn't interest me. The odd bit here and there, I might comment on, but on the grand scheme of things, I've got no interest in doing anything like that. And you can always tell because people like a cheat, he just does not give a fuck about anything. It's just views and money to him. He doesn't, doesn't care. I mean, it's the same people with Nux Taku and all these other retards. They've got no integrity. They've just seen that this has done well for other people. They've uploaded a video that's kind of political adjacent. It's done well, and they've just dived headfirst into it. If you can hardly cover a topic, why are you covering politics?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people can. There are probably obvious things that people get totally factually incorrect when they talk about when they talk about politics, or it's a beef that involves political sides. But unless you feel really confident about the subject matter, you're not going to know the difference between something that is obviously wrong and something that is contested, right?
Yeah.
So I feel
and that's what you're just careful.
I don't like his takes on October 7th. It seems hard to tell whether he thinks that mass rapes didn't happen or whether systemic rapes didn't happen, because those are distinctively different things. But Hassan, you'll see a clip with him saying that no, systemic rapes didn't happen on October 7th, and then people will soy out and say, "Oh my god, he's a rape denier. This guy, he's like a lefty, he's like a believe all women kind of guy." I don't know if Hassan has ever said believe all women, and no, if he's denying systemic rape, that's not what you want to go after. You want to find where he's talking about mass rape and denying mass rape, because those things are very, very different. But if you don't understand the difference, you're weighing in, and you're just totally wrong, embarrassingly wrong.
Well, yeah, and that's where you get your sensitive societies and a Cheetos coming in, fucking everything up. And if you don't know the don't know the difference, either you go and do the research and you make sure you go and talk to people about it, or if you know that realistically that's not something that I feel comfortable going after, even after that, it's not something that I'm confident in. There's plenty of other stuff to critique, go over. If there's an interesting part of the subject, before the content cop on H3. I didn't talk about Hassan or anything really. I think the most I did was speak about Frogan when she had that horrific American soldier take last year. Because it was just so appalling. But I had no interest in covering it until the content cop, because that gave me a route in where it wasn't just solely about politics. There was a lot more at hand there, right? A lot more at play that you can talk about. A lot more that was interesting. Overlap with a lot of the stuff that I wanted to talk about, creator clash and stuff. And if that wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be covering that story at all, because the political side, as interesting as it is, I'm just not as confident in that, and I wouldn't want to take the risk on that without doing a ton of research first. It's just sensible.
Diving into politics is one thing as well, but diving into Israel-Palestine,
oh my god,
conflict that has been going on for the last 80 years. Why would you want to dive into that? In my opinion, as I'm not to say that I'm an expert on politics or anything, but I feel like I'm relatively well clued in. Came from, I guess, Twitch poll originally, or spent a fair amount of time there. Israel Palestine is the most complex topic you could ever hope to dive into. That's like popular like political discourse. You've got to like have an understanding of international law. You've got to have an understanding of like the last 80 years of history, when realistically a lot of the history is very murky because it comes from one side or another of the particular of the particular conflict.
Yeah.
Can you trust America? They're supposed to be ostensibly neutral. They're the global hegemon. They would usually be incredibly reliable for this kind of thing, but unfortunately, they're very, very pro-Israel for like territorial, interests. It's like there's a whole minefield that you need to get into with it. I don't know why you would pick that as your start for your,
Yeah,
your
how
political
you get into
commentary
it, yeah.
career.
And if you're not really like a political guy in the first place, you're not really interested. It just seems like a death wish. It just feels like that is like a sign for you to fuck up. And like if
I
like,
don't know if
people
it
like,
is. I think Achito will actually be very successful, and if he can like endure the blowback from what he says, I think it will be an incredibly successful grift for him, because you'll have creators who are ostensibly like commentary. They have
yeah,
in terms of politics, they've got a low like information audience who will just like, yeah, I agree, yeah. They can get a point like terrifically wrong, but so long as you agree with the general thrust of what they're saying, or you just agree that yeah, we all hate Hassan, it doesn't really
yeah.
impact you. It doesn't affect you because people aren't there for the politics. They're there for the drama commentary, and they're there to hate on Hassan. So if you get something wrong about like a particular
Yeah.
like definition in international law, who the fuck cares? Because Hassan bad.
And I think that's where like a cheater will fuck up though in terms of the blowback, right? Because he can't handle criticism, can't handle the pushback. And if he does get something wrong and he gets critiqued, to like a mass extent, or people commenting and stuff, I just don't know how he responds to that. I don't know how he deals with that. Because I mean, he can hardly deal with it now, like on just like a live stream with like, there's maybe like 30, 40 to like 200 people like in his live stream. He can hardly deal with that there. Let alone, if he does get this big boost from politics, and he does do well, if he does get this pushback, or he does get critiqued, he doesn't have maybe a take that's like people agree with. I don't know how he responds to that, and like
especially when he's trying to be a live streamer.
Exactly. It's bad enough with some of his topic commentary videos where he's got prep time. You wouldn't think of it. You wouldn't think he'd like he could think about it. Let alone in a live stream.
I think it's as like somewhat of like a I feel like I do feel like a certain level of sympathy. I feel like it's probably deserved, but at the same time, like emotionally, I just kind of feel bad for the guy. But he's been on like a historic decline ever since the drama over Sniper Wolf, and I just feel like he kind of showed his ass, and I feel like he's lost a lot of respect when topic commentary people don't have much respect to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not someone as well. Like we were talking about earlier about like people getting involved in the conversation, especially on Twitter, right? I think Twitter is like pretty, as a commentator, and someone who like likes drama stuff, that's probably one of your most useful tools as well, right? As like a commentary channel or like creator, that can be one of your most useful tools if you use it right. I think in the past 2 years or so, like a cheater's gone on a huge decline. I mean, when I got him on my podcast, was probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Like we were talking like a decently long time. Still had respect around that time. I feel like he was weighing way more into the conversation. His name was like way more out there in like a positive way. But that's just not the case anymore.
I mean, who associates with a tutor anymore?
Well, yeah.
Like obviously, like having associations and being able to do content together and being able to say, "Oh, I was talking to Turkey Tom. I was talking to Nicholas Durio. I was, that not only is that good for your content, it also, is a sign of other people respecting you. So it's good for your reputation as well. But
your credibility.
I mean, who's there?
Well, yeah, and like to a certain extent, your connections and the people you talk to within commentary, that's like, again, one of your most reliable tools, right? That shows that you are a credible individual, right? If all these people are hanging around with you and are still talking to you, or like maybe propping you up or watching your content, it shows that you are maybe either a reliable source of information, or you have like a certain degree of credibility. But there is just no one around half these topic commentators. They don't have like people around them. They don't engage like in the online discourse. They're kind of just there. They kind of like back. Like, when have you last heard, maybe outside like, you know, shit stuff like the Nick A30 stuff, people actually like talk about like Sensitive Society or a Cheeto or these other people and then be actively involved in the conversation? It just doesn't happen. They're just not there. Which, you know, is unfortunate because like I think a couple of years ago it was like a completely different like thing, a completely different scenario. You'd hear of all these people. You just don't really anymore. Like, not all.
Yeah, the entire community, to be fair, well, that's not true actually. A good portion of the community focus seems to have shifted onto live streamers and live stream personalities who'll do the kind of like, you know, daily commentary streams. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, obviously, as somebody who does live streams, I feel quite good about it. But in terms of whether that's good or bad or whether that's a good change, I'm genuinely not sure. Because I mean, think about the Mama Max stuff, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the people who were like on Nicholas Diore's live stream at the time were people who were live streamers. Xylee, Lyrics, Tommy C, you know, Lyrics. A lot of these people aren't around anymore because they've had like big dramas that they haven't been able to like contend with, or they've found something better, or they've found something like, well, easier, or, you know, like the churn effect is insane. And especially when I feel like the life cycle for somebody who makes content about commentary is like 2 microseconds anyway. And streaming careers are built off kind of long-standing kind of track records. You build an audience like quite slowly.
Yeah. Well, like,
so I don't know.
Because I mean, you're right. Like, the focus is on like live streamers and the people that are around those live streamers. Like, just like even if you're maybe not necessarily like a live stream content creator, but if you like, you're in that space, right? Your associates are people that live stream. You know, you're kind of in there. That's where the focus is, right? And I mean, with a lot of these live streamers, because, you know, there isn't a fresh topic every single day. There isn't like a huge drama going on 24/7. A lot of it is like in commentary fighting. And, you know, that can go so badly wrong. I mean, the amount of like small like live streamers, right, that, you know, people thought had success or thought would go somewhere, so that have kind of fallen off the face of the platform in the past few months is insane. And it's all because of in commentary fighting. And I mean, it's personally why, at least in the content perspective, maybe not so on Twitter, but in the content perspective, I don't personally like enjoy getting involved in like loads of in commentary fight. There'll be a situation that will like pique my interest. But usually I'll just make a tweet about it or take the piss or get a clip and post it to Twitter and like, you know, have my say there. I think it is like, especially in live streaming stuff, it is like you said, like 2 seconds, it's over. Because again, with in commentary fighting, it's so easy as well for, you know, you said the wrong thing. Or about in commentary thing, everyone's focusing on that, especially when, you know, there's no other topics. Or you go against like another commentary person. You know, especially in a live stream setting. So easy for things to go wrong.
It also, it's so easy for things to go wrong. So easy for a drama to be whipped up as well, because you know, you have got people there watching, and drama is compelling content. But small comments here and there, small like critiques, small like offhand comments can stoke drama very, very quickly. And at least in my experience from I guess being around the streaming commentary space, it doesn't take a lot to start up dramas. And for that reason, I just often find myself kind of rolling my eyes at what disagreements are about. And so, I don't really find myself weighing in either. But often it's because I don't feel like I agree with either side, because it seems like such a petty disagreement.
Well, it just seems unnecessary half the time. Like, I'll always like look at like the in commentary fighting. It's like, well, why would I actively want to get myself involved? Why would, like, I just don't see the benefit. I would much rather talk about the next big topic or make a joke about it and then just move on. I just don't see like the appeal. I mean, I see the appeal from like a person watching the content. That's great, right? Like, when you're on the outside watching in and you're like you know, you've got no following, you're not a content creator. That is like great drama, great content. But like, as a content creator, I just feel like you don't really get anything out of it. Like, I think it's like you know, more against you than it is with you in terms of the stuff you actually get out of a situation like that.
I think if you look at it through a bird's kind of a bird's eye kind of view, and try and look in the big picture, I think it is actually good. The amount of in commentary fighting that has like occurred and has led to like, okay, these are the norms, you know, kind of the high school kind of like age gap or whatever. That's all started because of in commentary fighting. Allegations are evidence that has been rejected
Mhm.
because of inside commentary fighting. A lot of the norms and a lot of the ways that people like think about things, a lot of the standards that have been created in the space, that I think generally for the best, have come from in commentary fighting. So I think it's by and large it does have a positive effect. Because it's a way to like self-check. It's good content for people who want to watch it as
Yeah.
well. It's a little bit self-referential, and so it can get tiresome. But I think for the space, it is probably a net benefit. Benefit, even if you yourself kind of don't enjoy talking about it or don't
Oh
enjoy
yeah,
getting.
yeah.
Nobody enjoys getting roped into it unless they're the ones starting the fire.
Yeah, like I guess it just comes down to like a personal preference, right? It's like a content creator. Like if you do want to get involved in that type of stuff, or you don't. I mean, there are certain topics within commentary fighting. I mean, the Himpleton stuff, right? All this other type of stuff that is sometimes genuinely fascinating and interesting.
Yeah.
But I think there is just like maybe not so much the past couple of years because there has been loads of topics over the past year and a half or so. But like I think there was one point where just there was so much in commentary fighting. A lot of it was very boring. A lot of it was very inconsequential. It's not like we're talking about like Miss Manchi or whatever.
Yeah.
We were talking about like just the random in commentary stuff. It can get very boring very quickly. But I think commentary is like in a completely different spot here, where like in commentary fighting, it happens, but like I think it's rare for it to be really interesting. So when there is one that comes about that's really interesting, like that Himpleton call that came out, incredibly interesting, right?
Yeah.
Really interesting. Bo Black stuff, incredibly interesting and funny, and like the people that even don't want to like care about content. I mean, one that recently perked my interest was the Paro stuff with Paro. Really interesting stuff because of just he fucked it like immediately because of how he dealt with it and like the Paro stuff. Really interesting stuff. And like I think that's when it's good. Because at the moment there just isn't lots of in commentary fighting. So when you get like a gem in the rough, it's great. Like a diamond in the rough, it's beautiful. You get some really good content at the moment.
The issue that can come from that kind of I guess from in commentary fighting is when like you have what should unironically just be like a personal disagreement or a personal interaction or a personal drama that is then like spread out to loads and loads and loads of people. So for example, like you mentioned the Himpleton stuff. Obviously, I don't know if you remember, but before the call, the big drama that happened was Himpleton was doing research for Toastify, and then it got revealed that Himpleton was using other people to do research for him. And so it's, the question is he even doing this work? He's getting paid for it and getting like, I don't know, like slaves to go out there and do the research for him. Hopefully he's fact-checking it, but it doesn't seem like he's very hands-on. That entire narrative spread, and people will still repeat it. But realistically, I mean, I've seen the DMs, I've seen the interactions. Romeo, that's the guy who was helping Himpleton, messaged Himpleton and offered to see if you want me to, do anything with your research, like I'm here to help. And I know that this is a person who just wants to get a name for themselves, just wants to get like make friends and make associations. But then he then comes out and goes to Toastify and says, "Oh, I've been doing the research for you for Himpleton, by the way." Overplays how much research he's been doing, then to get in with Toastify, seemingly, but then it has a huge blowback on Himpleton because it sounds like he's been shipping out all this work to other people, which wasn't actually the case. Romeo just offered to help him out with some things. He's not trying to look around for, random retards to do this work for him for free. And I don't think Romeo was even doing that much work for him. But just because he was trying to social climb and was kind of bragging and, exaggerating how much work he was doing for him, that gets set. And to be clear, I'm not like deeply associated with Himpleton. This isn't coming from like a thing of, I think everyone's been so unfair to him. I want to go back and relitigate his past and stuff like that. But just to give an example of something that I've kind of like had a conversation with people about, looked into and got, okay, nobody's really gonna want to like correct this or like talk about it again. And realistically, this should have just been a drama behind the scenes between Himpleton, Toastify, and Romeo.
Well, yeah, like, and that's a lot of in commentary fighting. Is like realistically, this could have been like dealt with the DM. Like, this didn't need to be blasted out publicly, which is unfortunately like a lot of the in commentary fighting. And there are a lot of people that are very like snaky, very backstabby that like want to put that out there publicly rather than dealing with it behind the scenes. It will always be like my always thing is if there's like a disagreement or someone responds to me on Twitter and has like a huge issue or I have a huge issue with them, I would much rather go into like a DM and have a private conversation about my issues. I think a good one. I won't air out, of course, the specifics. But the like essayist Kasari, like last month or so, he had like a little squabble online. I didn't particularly like how he dealt with it. I had a few opinions, and because it happened in the past, so I reached out to him, gave my thoughts. They weren't exactly well received, but I'd much rather deal with it privately and like air that out privately, than try and air that all out publicly. Because I think sometimes the best way to deal with a situation like that is always behind the scenes. I think you should always try that out first before blasting that publicly. Of course, there are going to be times where that's not going to happen. If you know the person, I think always try and handle something privately if possible is always the best way to go, before making something public, of course. But a lot of people, see content,
especially when it's down to like personal kind of relationships behind the scenes that people have anyway. But I guess to be fair to Toastify, I think Himpleton was very, very willing to kind of like flaunt his associations out in the public, which kind of bit him on the arse, because as soon as they're kind of scrutinized, if people think that they are, slightly illegitimate or not as kind of, grand as you've presented them, you're inviting drama discussion about it. I think that's something that people often forget, that stuff that you brag about can be taken away from you and used as a weapon, and it's going to be used much harsher against you than it ever worked for you to start with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's just a common thing that happens in commentary. I mean, I've been doing commentary content for so long now, and it's always like very similar. You always get like a case like that year on year, right? And I think the best in commentary fighting, and like the most interesting ones, always start from a situation that's been like at least tried like handling behind the scenes, one that's like has to be handled publicly to a certain extent, maybe something's happened publicly, because I feel like they're a lot less messy, usually, because like I just like to see when like people actually try first, like actually try and resolve a situation before immediately going into content, because I think there's always like a huge red flag for a commentary content creator if you're looking at this like in commentary fighting, and it's very clear that for one, there was no issue that was like tried to be resolved in the first place, right? Nothing was like going on. Nobody reached out to each other. It all just became public immediately. It was all used as like a content, and like I don't like that. Like fair enough if you want to do that, but for me personally, I think looking at like a situation like that, I always get a bad vibe and a bad feeling from that. Because
if you ever have an issue with that person, is it going to go to the public first with their narrative, and you're on the back foot, and then you get to respond to something? It's not fucking worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think if you've got rapport with someone, even if it's just like you've had like a conversation or two, you're like friendly to a certain extent, and you have an issue with them, like maybe it's more a personal issue or whatever. I think it doesn't cost much to just hit them up in DMs, and if you've still got that issue, it hasn't been resolved, nothing's happened. If you want to make that public, go ahead. I just don't see there's like a massive harm in like we're talking about like in commentary stuff. We're not talking about like huge allegations or anything. But like if there's like a you've got an issue, I don't think there's like harm in just reaching out.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I do think that it's totally fair to do I guess like meta commentary. Like this is a bit self-serving as a streamer, but looking at content that somebody else has made about something and then criticizing their commentary.
Oh yeah, for sure. That is totally like fair. Yeah, that is like 100% fair. Like I mean, I've done that myself. I think I guess it's just more if you're like more friendly with the content creator, not like watching a piece of content, but like if you've seen something from them, how they've acted or something. I think this is more mainly on social media platforms like Twitter, or maybe in the replies of comments and stuff, how they've reacted and how they've responded. If you maybe see a personal like issue with that, or you see an issue with that, maybe before like immediately blasting it on like a live stream or in a video, just like reaching out and seeing like and trying to sort out the issue there, seeing what's going on there. But of course, look, if they say something fucking like retarded in a YouTube video, shit, like happily shit, because you're watching that. That's a piece of content they've done publicly. That's all public. But I guess you know when to reach out to people like privately when there's like a situation. You know when to avoid certain things. Of course, there are going to be times when making a video or responding to something publicly is going to be like a valid course of action, or like you said, right, when you're reacting to something and they've said something, you're of course going to critique it. But the times when to like message and respond like to people privately, like if you've seen something on Twitter,
In terms of like people blasting stuff out and making it into drama, I don't think it's even anything that I would like earnestly criticize someone for, or say is like, they fucked up here, they've done something
Yeah.
wrong here. But it's just kind of like how you decide to operate. And then people are maybe going to look at you with a little bit of side eye, but ultimately, I don't know quite how much you've done anything wrong, although I might disagree with it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just like a very like case by case basis as well, right? How you
Yeah,
decide to operate, how you yourself, and how like the standard that you hold yourself to. Because I'm
yeah,
not expecting like half commentary people to like do what I do, which would be like reaching out to somebody, and like having a conversation there before like going out publicly if that's like something that I would want to later do. I do not expect half
yeah,
people to do that, and I wouldn't blame people for not doing that.
yeah.
But I do like like you said, give a bit of silence to people. If that's their first response is to like immediately blast it out publicly, if you had like a rapport with someone in the past and like not try and
Hmm.
have a conversation about it. Because look, I mean, I think everyone's done it, right? I think everyone's blasted like situations and like spoke about stuff like that, especially when it's with fellow
Yeah.
commentators. But I just think a lot with these situations, a lot can be avoided just by having a conversation.
Mm.
Which a lot of the time just isn't done, which is unfortunate. Of course, there are topics and situations that's just inevitable, won't happen.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, it's more of like a case by case basis, like more of a personal thing, right? Like how you would hold yourself to.
I think usually when it happens, if I'm thinking about it, because obviously there's people who'll spurg out and make
Yeah,
everything public and they'll just like
yeah,
flick out. I think a lot of the time when it happens though, it's a much more considered kind of act. I feel like a lot of the time when somebody wants to burn a bridge publicly, they don't actually care about the things that they're saying when they're burning the
hmm
bridge. There's usually bad blood there. They wanted to separate from the other person anyway, and that's kind of why things are going on. There's like an
yeah. It's kind of
ulterior kind of
yeah,
like motive behind it,
like you've been looking
which
for an
I
excuse
mean,
for a
is
while,
it
like,
nefarious? Yeah, looking for an excuse. Is it nefarious? I don't think so. Maybe it's a little snaky, or maybe it's a little, I don't know. Um, it's just one of the unfortunate things about having like being known in a certain space, having
yeah,
like and then probably wanted to like preserve your reputation. So, oh, I don't like what this person is doing here. I probably want to move away from them. The next time I see something criticizable, I'll probably just make a comment publicly and,
yeah.
and fucking burn them for it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about giving chances and stuff, and about like case by case basis. You have to take a look at every situation. Like, a lot of them you can't compare to other situations, right? You got to look at them as they come. And with a lot of commentators, you might have reached out privately and like given people chances and or whatever, like actually tried. And sometimes it just doesn't go your way, and that's when like you said, some people like will go public. Will make a comment when they next fuck up. Make a comment about it. I guess within commentary, I think it's just so easy to like immediately go public with something, um,
Yeah.
and like throw shit at the wall. Which like fair enough if you want to do that. For me, I guess personally, just speaking like from my like, own experience and stuff, um, not my interest really. But if that's
Yeah,
something
so
that people want to do, of course, I'm not going to stop them or get in their way. Um, but I think that just comes down to like your personal standing and like the standard that you hold yourself to.
I felt the thing that I've been like, maybe I've probably usually been aware about the beefs and the things behind the scenes
Yeah.
that usually kind of occur. But I feel like until, I mean, it's not necessarily things that involve people like directly around me. It's usually things that I hear like through the grapevine. Oh wow, that person and that person actually fucking despise each other.
Yeah.
Damn, I had no idea they don't talk about each other at all. I didn't realize until I got into it just how true that is, that there's like shit talking behind the scenes. There's
Oh,
drama
there's so
behind the
much.
scenes. Most
Yeah.
of which, if people are smart, will never reach the kind of light of day. Um, but yeah, yeah.
And,
There's
and,
there's bad
and,
blood lurking all
yeah.
the time.
And I think, keeping it to yourself in that respect, right? Like, there's so many commentary people I don't like. There's so many. But a lot of the time, I don't see really a point about talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see what I'd get out of it, or see a point in it. You're always gonna have people that maybe necessarily you don't like, or maybe their content you don't really like, or you've got your own problems with them. And then you kind of just weigh it up by case if that's something that you want to pursue or you want to make public.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the thing about
You know,
benefit of the doubt as well. Like,
yeah,
I
exactly.
don't like somebody for this reason. Have I looked into it enough to really get to grips with what the actual situation is, what the actual drama is? Would I feel like I want somebody to air out a personal gripe that they had with me, like without necessarily knowing everything? I'll probably give it the benefit of the doubt there. Obviously,
Yeah.
not to say that it's like, yeah, not to say it's immoral, not to say it's wrong, but it's just, yeah, give somebody a bit of grace. I'd hope that people would have the same for me, but who knows?
Well, yeah, and that just comes down to your personal thing, right?
Mm.
And like how how you operate. Because unfortunately, not everyone's gonna operate how you operate. That's just like life, especially within commentary, right? People
Yeah,
have wildly different ideas. And yeah, I mean, there is so much bad blood behind the scenes with lots of people, like especially within commentary. I think because like one opinion can like really sway a lot of people, right? About how they feel about you or how they view you.
mm.
And I mean, I think it's just how you vocalize that, or maybe how you don't decide to vocalize that. I think there's just ways about going about things, and everyone's gonna have different ways of going about things. But
Yeah,
I think it just comes down to like a respectful way of doing a lot of things, and like going about the way that you think is the right way to go about it. Like hold yourself
yeah,
to your own standards. Um, but everyone's gonna have different standards. I don't
yeah.
even know how we got onto this topic, but
Neither do I.
but yeah, I mean, commentary is an interesting space, really interesting space when it comes down to like interpersonal relationships and how people deal with things. Because it's so easy for everything to get made public, and like 1 minute you're talking behind the scenes, the next minute you're on like a fucking stream talking about it.
Yeah, I think as
Like
well, a lot
yeah,
of I think this is probably well regarded. Like a lot of people kind of just accept that this is the case. People who hang around commentary might be. I mean, compare it to like I don't know the gardening content creator community, or I don't know the airplane model enthusiast community. I
yeah,
mean, people here spend a lot of time online, and it's not just this is a name they go by online. This is them. This is like an aspect. They see themselves in their username. They see themselves in like because people have a reputation, and it is it's a content creation space. It is also like a social space. It's a social community for a lot of people who hang about here, and so it's kind of hard for a personal grudge that you might have with somebody else to kind of like separate that, not let that enter into the space, not let that kind of bleed back into the social dynamics. Um, I feel like a lot of people struggle with that in particular. At least from the outside looking in. That's kind of
yeah.
that's my intuitive thing.
Well, yeah, because commentary is a thing where it's like such a huge part. Like you said, you're not talking about something like plane modeling and like, or maybe even videos on like shows and stuff, and talking about stuff like that.
Mm.
It's way easier as like a commentary creator, like when you're online covering so much drama and stuff, like talking to these people like a lot. It's kind of intertwined,
Mm.
a lot of the time. And I mean, to be fair, that's when sometimes you get the best like situations. Like Bo Blacks and like all that stuff. It wouldn't be as
Yep.
good if there wasn't all the interpersonal relationships and all the stuff going on there. It wouldn't have been like 10 times as like good and like how it has been without the fact that like a lot of the people going at Bo Blacks were all good friends. And
Yeah.
like they had like relationships like behind the scenes. It wouldn't have been as good. I mean, half of the drama like that wouldn't have been as good. But
Yeah. I mean,
I guess with commentary,
it's not a professional space, and that probably is what makes it so good to a certain extent.
yeah,
Like people can bemoan like the personal gripes that like get whipped up into drama when they're not interested. But if you are interested in a personal gripe that gets whipped up into drama, it is so fun to follow every little trail and every little nugget and every little development.
yeah,
It's very TMZ. It's very like I don't know, like gossiping mothers in a room. Did you hear what Sandra said? Oh well, Sandy said this in
yeah.
response, and oh Mary, her opinion is da. But
Well,
it's
like yeah,
good. It's good.
and everyone has their own little like group chat or their own person. They're cool. Like, have you seen this? Like, I know I've got like a group chat with like Ace Spinling and a few others. Something goes
Yeah.
on, that immediately people are being on a call talking about it. Because it is like that
And
gossip.
information travels so quickly as well.
Oh, it's so quickly. Yeah. There's like tweets about it immediately, fucking videos everywhere. People talking about it so quickly.
Or especially behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
travels so quickly, and I mean, I would even go out on a limb and say that wasn't like it hasn't been the case for that long. I mean, like 2 years ago, I think information traveled a lot slower within commentary, and like when like
Mm.
things were happening. Like now it's really quick. Everyone knows basically immediately. One person fucks up, or there's like an argument. Every fucking like individual like you've got like contact with knows about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because of the dynamic. I think as well, like even tying it back into live streams as well. Because of like how the community is built and how it's changed now. A lot of like the community now is live streamers, right? It's all the live stream content. It's all these people that are looking for the next topic, and they find a topic. A lot of them as well. Of course, like I can only go off like what I've seen, like the people that do live streams. That'd be immediately like in a group chat or like messaging the other live streamers, right? Talking to other people that would want to like cover a topic, or maybe if not, you immediately boot up a live stream and talk about it. Because that's just how information travels so quickly now. Because of a lot of the commentary community is just live stream. A lot of them is just live streamers, which has its benefits.
I hate them when they're against me, and I love them when they're with me. Okay, when they give me topics to talk about, they're the best people in the world. When they're talking about me, I fucking loathe these cunts. Okay, sorry, I don't know if you say that on your podcast, but
no, it's all good.
There will be these people, okay, and the way that they interact with the commentary, like live stream content, is they will have 4 chats open at a single time. They'll pop out the window. I know for a fact this happens, okay? They will have several windows of chats popped out, and they'll hop from stream to stream, and they'll type here and there in different ones. As soon as they find something to talk about, they'll go in all 4 chats and start discussing it.
Yeah.
And these people are the vectors for a lot of the drama that pops off. Like I say, when they're giving me topics, I love them. When they're talking about me, oh,
that's awful. It's all your little smaggles of the world. They're great. They'll go
where
around.
Would commentary be without the autists? Literally nowhere.
They are great. They can give you some of the best topics, the best advice, like the best like screenshots. Like without even asking them, they will send you like a whole fucking docket of shit. But as soon as you're put in the mix of that, oh god, they are like the worst people on the planet. They will make your life miserable. But that's commentary. It's got its swings and roundabouts.
I think for a lot of this stuff, you just have to accept that this is the space, even if you don't enjoy it, even if it's what you kind of sign up for by being in there a little bit,
Well, yeah, like I don't personally like the a lot of the what was it like infighting, but I know that's going to be a thing. That doesn't dissuade me from being involved or like making content in this space. Not something that I personally like always enjoy, but when you become like a commentator or you make commentary content, that's the thing that is going to happen. Like if you don't like that and that's like such a big thing, you wouldn't be making commentary content in the first place. Because that is such a big element of it. If you don't like live streams and people chatting shit, maybe commentary isn't the place for you. It's just pretty simple. But man, like how long are we going for now? Like an hour and a half, I think.
I think so, yeah.
It's been a very long podcast. I mean, like, what was it before the podcast? I said, we'll be going for maybe 40 minutes to an hour, man.
Yeah.
An hour and a half later. I've been like, I think it's been a great episode. Speaking to somebody that isn't American as well. It's great.
Oh my god, the accent, dude. The accent.
Oh,
as soon as you've
spoken
awful. To somebody who's British, and then you hear an American accent, it just hits you so differently. I can't stand these cunts sometimes.
They're just there's not many British people, and I just God. I mean, the majority of people that I speak to are all American. I mean, like Spinling is like a rare example of somebody that I speak to who isn't like American, but half of them are fucking American. It's so frustrating. And trying to schedule fucking podcasts and like interviews and trying to talk to people is so frustrating because I will have to like wait until like 2-3 o'clock in the morning to try and like get just a fucking interview or just like talk to.
How many fucking time zones does that godforsaken fucking country have?
I know it's awful.
It's like 4.
Yeah, every single fucking like time I schedule a fucking like podcast, it'd be a fucking different time zone with just some guy that sounds the exact same as the last guy, but he'd be living in somewhere else. It's so frustrating. Trying to like sort out anything with anybody that lives over there is a nightmare.
But yeah, I've really enjoyed coming on and chatting to you, mate. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been really good. I do really appreciate you coming on for an hour and a half to just talk about commentary and live stream. Always think these episodes are the most enjoyable ones where there's not too much pressure or stress. There's not loads of questions I need to get through. Because there isn't anything really that like you need to be held to account or anything that's serious that you would need to respond to or anything deep. It's just chatting. And I think they always make for the more interesting podcasts. So yeah, I do really appreciate you coming on for an hour and a half. And for everybody watching today's podcast, if you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. And if you haven't already, go and subscribe to Dickers. But I've been your host Samuel, and I will catch you in the next episode of the Trash Talk podcast.